I have had I've had an experience this week.
Yeah.
Yes. In that I am repeating myself. I don't know why. But you guys, you understand Nocturne is someone who exists, right? Like, I posted something about Wanda birthing a queen and everybody freaked out like I was talking about Wiccan. But I was talking about Nocturne, guys.
I don't know why everybody got in their feelings about that. Like, okay, like what? Like,
I don't get it either. I was so clearly talking about Nocturne and everybody was like, ew, why would you call Wiccan a queen? And it's like, I didn't though. I clearly didn't.
I would say Wanda has other children that aren't Wiccan. Why do they only care about Wiccan?
I mean, that's what I had to say. All y'all need to start caring about Nocturne. But
I mean, Wiccan has a twin, guys. Like,
someone did.
Nobody cares about him, though.
No. Someone did bring Speed up, and I was like, listen, all the love to the Maximoff kids. I was talking about Nocturne. That's all I had to say. But guys, welcome back. Welcome back to Simply Amazing, the podcast where we talk about Nightcrawler and Nightcrawler adjacent things, and really anything we can relate to Nightcrawler within 6 degrees. I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, always. That's what we do. And I've been very happy to hear from some listeners of the pod that where the place they go to keep up on Kurt and Nightcrawler, which makes me so happy because it's like, oh, well, duh, that's what you guys do. But like, again, that's what we do. And you guys are actually like able to use us for that. Like, that's just simply amazing to me. So I'm so glad we're able to do that for some of y'all. And I'm really appreciative of all you guys putting up with our inconsistent schedule. Sometimes we're on top of it every week. Sometimes we miss a week here or there. So thank you guys for listening. And I'm glad we get to be your Nightcrawler update every time we post.
Exactly. We are the Kurt. We've got our thumb on the Kurt pulse. So we're going to give you all the information all the time. And to introduce us, hello, everybody. Welcome to Simply Amazing, the beautiful Nightcrawler podcast. I am Lisa, aka the OG Nocturne. And over here in her friendly neighborhood, dressed like David S. Pumpkins, we've got the beautiful, the wonderful Lauren. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. Tired, but good. I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 again right before we started this recording, and it is paused, so I will probably go back to it. And, then I need to make myself do adult things, which is really lame because I really just want to be like a 16-year-old and just play that game all night. But I cannot. I'm great. And I have a pumpkin blanket because even though it's not Halloween, it's very fuzzy, as they call it. Fluffy and fuzzy.
It looks very comfortable, and it does remind me of David S. Pumpkins. So I gotta say,
I love that skit from SNL. It's so dumb, but it hits. It's good.
It is a good one. I will say. I mean, I'm a big SNL fan, but it is a good one. But yeah, today we're not here to talk about SNL or David S. Pumpkins or anything. We are going to talk about for Pride Month. We've got a little Pride episode we're going to talk about because Alan Cumming just recently did an interview where, again, Alan Cumming has officially said the gayest movie he's ever been in was X2. And so we need to talk about this.
Because listen, I think I was thinking when Lisa brought this up to me, and right before I read the article, I was like, I think I know the way he's going to go with this, as long as he makes some sense, which he does, and we'll talk about that. But right before that, I was like, but he was in Spy Kids. And like, no way is that movie like actually like directly gay. I was just like, what Spy Kids? You were in that, Alan. Like, do you not remember all the walking thumbs and everything? Like, I don't know how, but that's fucking gay.
I mean, he was in Spice World. like when Alan Cumming says this is the gayest thing he's ever done, that's when you have to listen because yes, like
he's done a lot of gay. He's done a lot of gay.
So, and it was funny because, when I first saw the interview, I was like, it's weird to me because the least gay thing about X2, I would say, is Kurt's arc because it's very like rooted in, like X2 is what launched 1,000 Keroro ships and everybody loved like Storm and Nightcrawler because of their little scenes together. So it's funny that he describes it as like the queerest movie he's ever been in. But again, when you look at the themes, I mean, the way he explains it makes a lot of sense, and I agree. X2 is gay as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the article, and we'll make sure the article, I'll make sure it's linked in the description of this episode so y'all can go look at it as well. But yeah, I mean, he basically went the perspective that I was kind of thinking, which is a lot of things regarding, that the X-Men are an allegory for so many things, including, being gay and, homophobia and all these things. And so many are minority groups, obviously. So, but he kind of went that route, and he talked about like, a lot of the actors, I guess, in the film were queer, or maybe the people on set, things like that. A lot of people working on the film were, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Bryan Singer was the director, and of course, Bryan Singer is queer, but he also has his own issues that we won't get into here.
I was gonna say, let's not.
I mean,
problematic queer alert.
Yeah, I would say the most queer thing about X2, and this is in my opinion, of course, as a straight woman, so, come at me, is the scene with Bobby and his parents, where it's like a coming out scene that is just, I mean, ripped from the queer experience of that whole idea of like, have you tried not being a mutant? I mean, that to me is like the really queer element. But I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that Alan doesn't talk about that might, add to it, including, him and Ian McKellen used to go to like all the nude beaches together. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you bring up the Bobby scene because I think you have a good point with that. And it's funny because it's Bobby and he's straight in that franchise, but he's gay as fuck in the comics, as we all know. So it's like, the movies were like, basically he is, but we can't do that yet. So
it's like everybody knew Bobby was gay before Bobby. Bobby was the last person to find out he was gay. Like a guy was buried in Bobby's ass being like, you're gay, right? And Bobby's like, what? No, shut up. No. I mean, keep fucking me, but no way.
That sounds like something that would happen on the show The Other Two that you showed me. That show's a mess.
I love that show so much. I saw that show came up on Reddit recently about like shows that like nobody noticed about. Y'all should watch The Other Two, and y'all should go buy the breakfast and Nooner shirts I made. So yeah,
amazing. I love that. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing: wherever the X-Men go, wherever they are, it's gay. Anything is inherently gay. It's queer. It's full of pride. And even though Kurt is written as straight, and a lot of people written as straight in a lot of cases. He's also written not straight in some cases, but everybody has their own headcanons and things like that. I think what's so great is that Kurt just represents love no matter what, and that's kind of the whole fucking point. He's just like, love who you want. I don't give a shit. Like he's actually how like a well intentioned and good doing Catholic is, because he's Catholic.
Absolutely. I will say that, you can see that very clearly in the episode. And again, not to toot our own horns, but the episode that we named our podcast after, which was Amazing X-Men number 13, which was a great issue that had to do with a lot of the intersectionality between, specifically the intersectionality in the X universe or in the Marvel universe between queerness and mutantness. And because there's a lot of intersectionality in that, right? Where, you can be queer and also a different ethnicity or a different religion. There's so many different ways to, and they really did a great job, diving into that and really explaining what it means in that issue. And Alan talks about it in the article, just about the idea of finding identity and figuring out like who you are, where you belong. And, it's funny because I don't think the X-Men were ever meant to be a queer, like allegory. But they came out that way very clearly because, typically you don't really, I mean, again, I'm not gay, so I can't speak to this, but if I'm wrong, let me know. But
just like a straight person, I'm not gay, but I'm kidding.
I mean, listen,
I love you. You're doing great.
Yeah, thank you. I will just say that, typically, homosexuality, queerness does not present itself before adolescence, right? Because before adolescence, we're all children. We're not interested in that idea of connecting with someone in a sexual or like kind of that manner. I'm not saying everybody. I mean, some boys at 5 years old know they want to kiss other boys. I'm just saying that, that's what makes the X-Men such a great allegory for queerness, in that, they don't know they're they live their whole childhood as normal people. Not everybody, obviously. Our boy, knew he was a mutant from that day he was born, but they live their whole childhood thinking they are something that they're not. And then suddenly at adolescence, they are thrust into this, otherness that they didn't understand or realize. And that's where I think the queer allegory is so important and so essential in X-Men comics. And I think that, he makes a great point talking about the allegory. And again, he's a very queer actor who has been around for a very long time. And specifically his character in this movie was very decidedly not queer in any way. Like, there was very little queerness to his character, but he still was able to kind of pick up on all of that undertone. And I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially back then, because nowadays it's so common to talk about X-Men and queerness and things like that. Like they really are synonymous at this point. At least once you're in the fandom, maybe not first, but once you talk to other X-Men fans, it's like, oh my God, like, damn, gay, gay, gay. All right, shit. Like, all right, I got it now. So, but back then it was not. The X-Men were not synonymous with that. As somebody who grew up loving the X-Men as well when I was very young. And so it is really cool to kind of see how, and the cool thing about the X-Men in general is that because they are an allegory for so many different minority groups and so many, like, what's the right word? Representing so many different groups of people that are, victims of prejudice and social injustices and things like that. It's interesting because as our world evolves and as we overcome and work to, disconnect all these social injustices and eliminate as much prejudice as possible and everything, the X-Men get to evolve with us. So I'd be really interested to kind of look at how the X-Men evolved with real life in a way. And, of course, I think a lot of us can acknowledge how a lot has stayed the same, though, right? Like, that was one thing I remember talking about when we were covering X-Men 97 is that one, I can't remember which number episode it was, but it was the episode where Magneto's released by that one lady. I can't remember her name. But she goes on this great monologue basically about how, like, I realized with this whole Genosha, genocide, essentially, that guess what? This is the same shit another day. Nothing has changed in decades and hundreds of years. Nothing has fucking changed at all. And for that reason, Magneto's right. And so I think about that. I'm like, both can be true. Some things have changed and there's a lot that fucking hasn't. So anyway, sorry for the long ramble, but I really find that interesting. And I think that's why the X-Men will forever be such a staple with so many people, because, like, again, we've joked about it on here, but it really is true. There's no franchise that beats the X-Men. There's no franchise in terms of how much people love it, in terms of how many people identify with it and have somebody in that franchise they love and they can attach themselves to. No franchise beats it. Just none.
Well, I want to speak to the, like you said, like, people relating to it, because I think that there's something that the X-Men has that no other franchise does have. And it's that feeling of othering at adolescence, because it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be straight, you can be gay, you can be trans, you can be cis. It doesn't matter. When you were going through puberty, you are questioning every aspect of your identity and trying to figure out and understand who you actually are. And right. I think that's why the X-Men, really, granted, when you really look at the demographics of the X-Men, there's a lot of queer fans. There were a lot of fans of, from minority groups. But I think that the X-Men in general just really relates to so many of us, because it doesn't matter who you are. When you go through that adolescent phase, you are questioning. And, the X-Men give you that option of, it doesn't, like, for me personally, I'm not queer, but I have ADHD, and, going through adolescence it was a lot of questioning for me to figure out what the fuck is wrong with me. So that's the thing. I think that that's why we all relate to it. You know, none of us are going to be Superman. None of us are going to be aliens who just were sent here. Not very few of us are going to be Batman, who are billionaires who can afford, caves full of shit, or Tony Starks. Like, but
Don't be a
any of us,
Tony Stark, guys. He's terrible. Anyways.
gross. Any of us could be X-Men. Any of us could be mutants. I mean, tomorrow your kid could get, who knows? That's what makes the X-Men so enduring and so, interesting, is that idea of it could happen to anybody. Like your child could show up with become a mutant tomorrow, and what are you going to do about it? Yeah, that's what makes the X-Men so hard for humans to accept too.
Yeah, no, I love how you said it, is that, anybody can be an X-Men. And it's literally true because, like you said, you're not going to know until all of a sudden, shit, you're a mutant. All right. And I think it's cool because we talk about X-Men representing the people that, are the ones that are, victims of the prejudice or are afraid to come out, and struggle with that stuff. And that is primarily what they are. But also the X-Men's a great representation of, those that, maybe you're the parent and your kid comes out to you and maybe you weren't expecting it, or maybe you had other thoughts about how they go, or maybe, you're fine with them being gay, but they want to change their name from the name you gave them at birth. And that hurts your feelings because you picked out a wonderful name for them that's very sentimental to you and your family. And you have to be able to find a way to work through that with them, right? Because you're allowed to have your feelings about that. And you still got to be able to process that. Hopefully you get to a point where you're like, I still want this. I still want my kid in my life. I still want to figure this out. So I think that's the other thing too, is like X-Men 97 showed us the whole like Sunspot's mom being, technically accepting, but in like a terrible way, which I thought was interesting too. Not like it was great, but it was interesting to see that more of a gray area where instead of just like, oh, no, I'm so homophobic, fuck you, like it's the worst. She was like, okay, I don't really care that you're a mutant, but at the same time, I got investors out there that do. And so that's why it's like, is she homophobic necessarily? Not technically, but she's an asshole because she's not going to defend her kid and, all that stuff. And so I think it's interesting to see the X-Men in whatever form media is, whether it's film, TV, comics, whatever, explore more of those gray areas, because I think a lot of those are like more reality. Not that the extremes aren't reality. Those extremes happen and it's awful. And I think there's a lot of stuff in the middle that isn't talked about a lot and we don't see. And seeing the X-Men kind of, take those stories and put them somewhere, I think is very interesting, so that we start having these conversations more. Because that's the best thing about any franchise or form media too, is that it just gets us talking and thinking.
I love that you brought up Sunspot in X-Men 97 because they did a great job of making him this allegory for this idea of, acceptance that's not acceptance.
Yeah.
And, it's like his mother was like, I don't care that you're a mutant. I love you anyway. However, we've got to figure out X, Y, and Z. But I want to add more to that, in that there's that scene where, they come for Sunspot and Jubilee, and his mother is like, I mean, they're the authorities. Just trust them. And that is another part. That's another like level of privilege that a lot of people don't have, is that idea of, well, when the authorities show up, they're there to, do what's right. And they're there to take care of the situation and make sure, justice prevails. But that's not the case for everybody. And that obviously wasn't the case in X-Men 97 because the authorities were pieces of shit. So, yeah, I love that you brought that up. But yeah, it's a great allegory. We can read into it 1,000 different times. I do want to bring up that, of course, there can't be an interview with Alan Cumming about X2 without him talking about how much he hated the fucking makeup.
Without him bitching is the word I'm going to say. And I know we're really positive here, guys, but I just got to say he needs to quit the bitching.
I mean, it's been over 20 years. Like, there's no way you're still digging blue out of your crevices.
Apparently the man is, because this is like, it's like the most traumatic thing. Like, he must have like PTSD, like legit. Like, I'm not even trying to be an ass. He probably has some, because he keeps fucking bringing it up. And I'm like, dude, like, you did it one film. Like,
to be fair, to be fair, it can be a harrowing experience because apparently when Jim Carrey was in The Grinch, he had to have like what was the word? He had to have like
he went through like a FBI or CIA level like torture training or some shit,
yes,
I think.
exactly. He went through like some kind of
Yeah.
crazy torture training to get him through the makeup because it's so harrowing. And I get it. Listen, for
Yeah,
those
he
of
had
you
all
out
those
there,
prosthetics too, and I
yeah,
forgot Alan Cumming had him too. So I mean, like you said, I get, but it's just like, come on, dude, like just stick with what you were saying, which is great. The fact that it's the queerest film you've been in and all this stuff,
I will
like
say that I get it in the sense of like you have to film an 8-hour day. But if you need 5 hours of makeup, I mean, that becomes a 13-hour day. I get
right,
it. I get it. But like, here's the thing. I would have more sympathy for him if Rebecca Romaine wasn't in the same movie with like blue makeup all up in her cooch. It's just like, dude, literally, it was the waist up. And it was one scene that you needed to do the waist up. Everything else, you never had your shirt off. So like Rebecca Romaine, literally, they were painting her taint blue. So I just have very little sympathy for that because I mean Rebecca Romaine. I'm even going to add Jennifer Lawrence in there because Jennifer Lawrence in the earlier X-Men films, X-Men, First Class,
yeah,
they were painting her taint too. And apparently there's a story I read years ago where like she lost her security deposit on the apartment she was renting when she was filming X-Men because she accidentally dyed the bathtub blue and they wouldn't give her security
damn.
deposit back.
Mhm.
So yeah, Alan, buddy, love ya enough.
Yeah, and listen, I love Alan, don't get me wrong, but I think this is a great example of how even the queer men that we love and all this stuff,
Oh, they're so freaking full of it.
are representations of just you've got the masculinity stuff, right? And the whole like, oh well, I'm gonna bitch about forever, but these two women don't bitch about it and they went through worse. And so
I mean,
it's interesting, how socially, even though this, Alan Cumming is a great guy from what I've seen in general. Like, I mean, he's a celebrity, but he seems like a great guy and he's lovely. But he's queer and all this stuff. So you're like, oh, he's not regular, like cis straight macho guy. That's great. And yet he's still going through he has to bitch about this for 20 plus years while these
I will
women
say,
wear socialize, which sucks for us to just be like, you know what? Yeah, it really sucked. But, I'm not going to, say anything. I mean, that
I,
doesn't suck in terms of you move on. But when we're actually in pain, we still keep our mouth shut. I just have to
I
put
mean,
that out there because that
yeah,
drives me insane.
they call it the man flu for a reason, so I
Yeah.
will say
But,
that
anyways.
years ago, Alan Cumming, after he was in X2, he wrote a book that I ended up reading, and it really made me dislike him a lot
Oof.
because he called his book like semi-autobiographical. And what made me really dislike him a lot in the book and say like, okay, if this is like autobiographical, if you actually did this, I really don't like you. There's
Oh,
this whole
dear.
part of the book where like he's dating a man who has a son, and like there's this whole part where he's like getting super close to the son and the son is starting to call him dad, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh fuck this, I think I should be fucking more people, and he just like breaks up with the guy, and I'm like, oh my god, why?
Yikes.
Like, why would you get so close to the fucking kid if you just want to go fuck God? Like, that bothered me so much, and I still have not gotten let it go of it. However, he has become more on my good side because he was in Burlesque with Cher, and I fucking love Cher. And honestly, I'm very interested in watching the new season of Traitors coming out that has Dolores Catania and Dorinda Medley in it. So I'll be there.
Well, I am a firm believer at times that the right casting is going to be the right casting based on who they are in real life. Yes, actors are actors, but again, especially I think especially for like really good characters in terms of like morally good. I think a lot of times the people that play them, even if they're never going to be as perfect as the characters they play, say morally or what have you, that they are an extension of that character in a way, and that's often, not always, but often the best casting. So like I'm gonna give a really crazy example that's not comic related, but like Anne Hathaway as Princess Mia in the Princess Diaries 1 and 2, especially her in 2, perfect casting. No one else can play Princess Mia. Absolutely. And now Queen Mia. No one else can play that role.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I will say that's fair. I will, however, I do believe 100% the only reason Alan Cumming was cast as Nightcrawler was because at the time he was most famous for being the cabaret MC in Cabaret, which has a German accent. I really think that's number one because he just doesn't have the body type of an acrobat. I mean, he's supposed to
Yeah,
be an
I
acrobat,
could see
so
that. Yeah,
but
and that was the main point I was making in general is that we still have not had our perfect Kurt, which I think is
ugh,
obvious
it's
in
coming.
general. But and even if they're not picture perfect, again, nobody's perfect, right? But
I mean,
we're
I'm
still
pretty
waiting
close.
for that. We're still waiting for that.
Yeah, we are.
The best casting we've had for Kurt is X-Men 97. Damn it,
Yeah,
that Kurt
yeah,
right there. That's the best one we've had.
that is true. I will agree with that. Can I tell you a story about when I went to see X2 in the movie theater? Because I'm
Yes.
old as fuck. Okay. Keep in mind, everybody, X2 came out 20 fucking 1 years ago. X2 could be my child, and my child will be out of college drinking and probably
Dang, I'm
having
only
sex.
7 years older than your child. What the hell?
I don't want to talk about that. I really don't want to talk about that. So when X2 came out in the movie theater, I was so fucking excited because of Nightcrawler that I worked at Starbucks at the time, and I actually bought tickets for like 17 of my closest friends. And we were all going to go see it together because I was like, we all need to see this together because Nightcrawler's in it. I can't wait. And I actually ended up going to Starbucks at closing time to help my friend close to make sure she could make it to see this movie. And I loved every minute of it. Don't get me wrong. X2 still stands to be one of the best superhero movies, period. And our boy stands to have one of the best superhero scenes in a superhero movie, period. Like
Yes.
it's hard to even compete with that White House scene. It's kind of funny because it's a very out of character scene for Nightcrawler, and yet it is one of the most, you know, lauded and, best scenes in comic book movie history.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's still talked about, pops up on my Twitter feed every once in a while still. Yeah, I mean, again, I've said it before, I think, on here, but the X-Men films are perfectly cast for the time, at least.
Mhm.
And there were so many good things about them. They just still needed to be better. And yeah,
I,
so I'm happy we are where we are now. And in general, Alan Cumming, thanks for being loud about your queerness, I guess, because I don't know what he does in his personal life, but we all fuck about in personal life. So thanks for being queer and still talking about playing Nightcrawler. Like, I was thinking about that. I was like, because it was on this article from Deadline, I believe. And I was like, what? I mean, I guess he has that new show coming out. And so rather than talk about his new show, or maybe I guess along with talking about the new show he's hosting or whatever it is, he's like, by the way, X2 once again, saddle up.
I
Crazy.
feel like I feel like he has never taken an opportunity in the past 21 years to talk about how much he just fucking likes the makeup. I feel like they said to him, "What's the queerest thing you ever did?" And he was like, "All I want to do is talk about how much I fucking hated being Nightcrawler." Okay, it was X2. The makeup sucked. That was that's it.
Yeah, I guess. But it gave us a Pride episode topic to do for now. And yeah, I'm here for it because any reason we can connect things to Nightcrawler. Also, at the start of this episode, Lisa, you were like, but we're not talking about David S. Pumpkins or SNL. We're talking about Kirk. Your new challenge is to connect David S. Pumpkins to Nightcrawler.
Oh, that's not going to be too hard. That is not going to be too hard. Give me 5 seconds. I'll figure it out. Let me think. Okay. Um, Tom Hanks. What is Tom Hanks? I'm trying. It's going to be through Tom Hanks. It's got to be through Tom Hanks.
She's on the move, guys. She
I'm
is
working on
actively
it.
searching.
I'm working on it. I'm like, Tom Hanks. Ooh, 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 okay. All right. All right. We're figuring something out here. Okay. All right. We're getting there. Sorry, I do have to do some Googling because it's like, I mean, I
You
don't
gotta
know
do some
everything.
research to find the connection.
That's it. Exactly. So, This might take me a little bit longer, but I really don't think it
That's
will
okay.
because
We can talk about it later. You can post it later. You don't have to do it right this second because I thought that and I was like, we are trying to get things to connect. So do that. Anybody that has a connection that you want Lisa to try to make to Kurt, it can be the most obscure thing on the planet. Tell us, tweet at us, let us know. We're gonna have her do it on the air.
oh yeah, we'll make it happen. Like I'm all about it and I'm ready to go. Like, let's do it.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, guys. That is your mission for this episode.
Take
And
it
it's
as
going to be great. And I
compliment.
totally just volunteered Lisa for it. You're welcome, Lisa. Here to help.
I might just destroy it in 5 seconds. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Okay. It's done. Like Alan Cumming hosted SNL with Jennifer Lopez as the opener. This was in February 5th, 2000. And of course, SNL is where David S. Pumpkins is from.
Damn. That was too easy. I'm upset about that.
There's
Great job, Lisa.
There's very little I can't connect Nightcrawler to, mostly because of Alan Cumming and the show Traitors, which again, I have not watched the first 2 seasons, but now that I've seen that Dolores from New Jersey and Dorinda from New York, and I'm not a Vanderpump fan or a Vanderpump Rules fan, but Tom Sandoval also is going to be, this is going to be a ridiculous season of Traitors, and I'm all about it. Let's do it.
Amazing. I love it.
So, and for those of you out there listening, if you would like to watch X2 with us, we are going to be watching X2 in our Nightcrawler Discord coming up on Friday, literally this Friday, like in 2 days from now.
As in the 21st of June. There you go.
Yeah, as in the 21st of June, exactly. We're going to be watching X2. So come join us in the Nightcrawler Discord, ask us where it is and we'll let you know. We'll give you the invite. And yeah, we'll watch that together. We're going to, just enjoy.
Hell yeah. I love it.
And here's the thing. I also want to mention, never forget that before Alan Cumming was Nightcrawler, he was Sandy Frank in Romy Michelle.
Great.
I mean, it's a classic. So anyway, thank you guys again for joining us for another fabulous episode of Simply Amazing. I am Lisa, and I've got Lauren over there. Lauren, where can they find you?
Mostly on Twitter at friendly MBHDBI. Yeah, come bother me. I'm trying to be more social, but I'm also trying to be on the internet less. So it is kind of a double-edged sword, but I'm trying.
Yeah, listen, trying is what we're all doing right now. Fuck. I mean,
Simply trying. That's a new t-shirt.
It's Simply Trying. That is our new podcast, Simply Trying. Yeah, come find us on simplyamazingpod.com. We're on Twitter mostly. We're also on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on all of it. Gail Simone found us on YouTube.
Can you believe that?
We're so freaking out about that.
I'm never getting over that. Thank you very much.
And if you're listening, please, research Nocturne because she is someone who exists and is literally a queen. So,
yes.
But if you are out there and you were a fabulous MC in Cabaret in New York City, and then in 2002 you were also next to, hey Alan, girl, we'll have you on too, baby. But you're so simply amazing.